Hi, I'm Fotoulla Damaskos. I'm the Chief Brand Officer at National Research Group, and I'm here with Aarti Bhaskaran, Global Head of Research and Insights at Snapchat. And we're here to talk today about building authentic connection in the creator economy and in sports, the convergence of that. And Aarti, I'm excited to talk with you about this because Snapchat really sits at the center of a lot of the shifts that we're seeing in the creator economy, from audience to community to from content consumption to participation, and from mass reach to smaller, more personal connections. We've been studying authenticity at National Research Group quite a bit, just to understand what really creates authenticity in the creator economy. And one of the interesting things that we've seen is that it's really, at the end of the day, more about the relationship that they're building. It's not just, it's not only the style, it's not only the tone or the content type, but it's really that earned trust that creators build with their audience over time. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and where the creator economy is converging with sports, and what it takes for creators and athletes and brands to show up in a way that feels real and valuable to their audience. So to start, authenticity is a word that we hear a lot, heard a lot about it all week, but it's also something that's kind of difficult to define. It's hard to know what makes something feel real versus performative in a way that really defines it and breaks it down. So I'd love, from your perspective, what makes a creator relationship feel authentic today, and how are you seeing creators use platforms like Snapchat to build those authentic relationships with their audience?
Yeah, we actually asked the creators that. Last year we did a huge global study just to understand what people like from creators and how do creators think about creating content. And what came out clearly when it comes to defining authenticity is that people want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see the failures. They want to see what creators have learned and their journey more than the polished stuff. And that's where I think Snap really comes in, because Snap's seen as the platform where you're most real. Yeah. Whereas Instagram is like the most edited, TikTok is the more entertaining, and YouTube is the more longer format. Yeah. And to me, authenticity is really about showing everything and being real and admitting that you don't know everything and you're learning and the consumer's learning with you.
Yeah, that's great. Sports is one of the clearest places that we see that authenticity show up. The biggest shifts in sports is with athletes themselves becoming increasingly important to the audience, and not just all about the teams anymore. They're the storytellers, they're the content creators, they're the direct channel to fans. Our research has shown that, especially younger fans in particular, they're creating that different kind of connection with the athletes, and it feels more personal, more direct, and more powerful. So from Snap's perspective, how does social content build anticipation, especially as we think about what comes before the game, what comes during the game, of course, but also what's that continued engagement after the game as well?
Yeah, one of the changes that we're seeing in terms of behavior is a lot of discovery is happening through social. And this is not just for brands, it also applies to sports as well. So you follow a creator who's passionate about a sport, you follow the athlete, then you discover the team, then you discover the sport. So a lot of anticipation is actually built by the creators, by the athlete, when they're showing their behind the scenes, their get ready with me videos, and you're kind of like following all that hype to the game. And at the game, you're either texting or you're snapping with your friend, maybe you're taking a video of what you're in the stadium, you're playing with a lens, you're sharing. And then often the post-match, a lot of people, just like there is advocacy of brand, there's also advocacy of sport as well. Mm-hmm. And people are always talking about the excitement for the next match, and you see all that play out on social.
Yeah. If you think of the typical sports marketing, it often focuses on the big public moments, right? Yep. The big campaigns, the highlights, the sponsorship moments, but fandom is built in those more personal connections, those smaller moments. We've also seen in our research too that, especially younger fans, again, their fandom is driven, and fandom and discovery and live viewing is driven by these smaller moments, these deeper forms of connection. So from a brand perspective, how should brands think about the more private, friend-to-friend side of sports fandom? And is there a different kind of value that more personal moment or connection builds for brands?
Absolutely. I mean, we ask consumers and creators that, and their perspective is it's not just enough if brands just endorse a celebrity or work with them, or especially a sports person, but really get into the grassroots of the sport, like support the sport from the grassroots all the way up. And at the same time, think of formats like creating lenses or working with creators. So you have like the behind the scenes look of the sport, and try to fit like the brand story with the behind the scenes. I think one of the examples was we're working with the female athlete who is a gymnast, and she was doing her get ready with me, and she always uses this particular lip gloss that stays on throughout the whole tournament. It was a great partnership for the brand to work with her as she's getting ready with me, and call themselves as the gloss that like never leaves. That to me is a very authentic, personal, one-to-one way for a brand to connect with an athlete beyond just sponsoring them.
Yeah. Okay. Great. One of the implications from our authenticity work is that brands can't just borrow authenticity from the creator or the athlete. They have to understand the relationship that they've already built and figure out how to add value to it, how to connect with it more authentically. And that's especially true in sports with the protective nature that fans have of their athletes or teams, and then the rituals that go into the sports fandom. So as brands think about this, how can they prepare for a future where sports fandom is more immersive, more creator-led, and more relationship-driven to show up in a way that feels really authentic?
Yeah, I think brand really needs to look at what is the brand story and the message, and how does that fit in with what the sport stands for, what the athlete stands for, and find very organic ways to become part of the sport. On Snap, for example, a brand can work with creators on the platform. It can work with athletes. It can get them to play around with lenses and create an experience that they can then share with their fans. Or you can have your lenses in the stadium. The crying face is like the best example that's there in all the football stadiums. So it's thinking beyond like standard ways in which you'll go to market as a brand, like have like a big 30-second spot and run it with the athlete, and think about the ways in which you can insert yourself pre-game, during game, and post-game.
Yeah. Okay. I want to close out with a more practical question. So you've talked a lot about the importance of remembering the human behind the metrics. So in sports marketing, do you think brands miss the mark when they optimize for views, impressions, or clicks?
That's like an easy yes. Because often if you're chasing for a metric, you would achieve it in the short term. But what you are not tapping into is the passion and the fandom behind the sport that's going to fuel more long-term brand building. And there's so much work and evidence out there that shows the importance of long-term brand building to drive the short-term sales. If you're forever going to look at a click or other such metrics, you're going to soon run out of the bottom of the funnel and you'll fail to fill in the top. And if you want to build your whole funnel, then I think you truly need to tap into a fandom. That's, again, it goes beyond just what happens in the stadium, but what happens before and what happens after.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's a great place to end. I really appreciate your time and love the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.